Mercedes has been able to get on the winner's podium in every race starting from Montreal. The two drivers got on the podium together 2 times in a row in France and Hungary. What's really exciting for the team is that they can finally fight with Ferrari and with Perez from Red Bull, something that seemed impossible at the start of the season. But the Silver Arrows just showed once again that they're not a team you want to mess with, especially when they're backed into a corner. Thanks to a bunch of car improvements, Mercedes is very close to getting first place on the podium, something they'll definitely try to do in the second half of the season. But how did Mercedes manage to get this recent success? Stick around and find out more in this video. Before we start talking about Mercedes finding their speed in their car, we need to explain where they were at the beginning of the season. It's no secret that Mercedes had a really hard time in the first few races up to Barcelona. Their car was bouncing around a lot because of something called the porpoising problem. Unlike Ferrari, they were able to do better with this problem. But if you look at the results, you'll see that the team got on the podium in Bahrain and Australia, 2 of the first 3 races of the season. These podium finishes happened because the other teams were having lots of problems with their cars. Breaking down. In the first race, both Red Bull cars had to quit the race. In Australia, Max Verstappen had a fuel pump problem and had to quit too. In Barcelona, Sainz spun out and lost his good position, and Leclerc had to quit because his engine broke, which let Russell get on the podium again. Hamilton was at the back of the pack at one point after he crashed into Magnussen, and was even thinking about quitting to save his engine. But his engineer told him he could finish in 8th place or better, and Hamilton was in 4th place near the end after passing Sainz. But then he had to give up that spot because of a possible problem with his engine that might make him quit after. All the hard work he did. Mercedes also had a tough time in Baku, but Russell still finished 3rd and Hamilton came right behind him in 4th. Both Ferrari drivers had to quit because of yet another problem with their engines. Why are we telling you all these facts? Because even though Mercedes was slow and sometimes more than a second behind their competitors, their super reliable engine and car let them stay close in the competition. Now that they finally got some good upgrades to their car, it looks like they really want to win and attack Ferrari for 2nd place in the championship. So what changed for Mercedes? The team was expecting a lot from Silverstone, a track with a surface that would help Mercedes' car. The reason for this is the way Mercedes has dealt with the porpoising problem. The car is currently sitting so low that if the track surface is a little bumpy, something called bottoming out will happen. The difference between these two is that in bottoming out, the whole car hits the road, while in the porpoising problem, just the back end hits the ground. The team was trying to get rid of this problem that happened because the car was not only too low to the ground, but too stiff as well. After the Canadian Grand Prix, the team thought they found a solution to the bottoming out problem, and they were hoping to do really well in Silverstone. It's also worth mentioning that the team brought a huge package of improvements for this race, and we have to say it really worked out. Mercedes brought new versions of their front suspension, side pod fins, floor, rear wings, and big changes. To the front wing on the front suspension, Mercedes added more space to the pushrod and relay parts where they connect to the main body. The team explained that the main reason for this change was to push the airflow down around the side of the main body to help get rid of a spinning air current, which then helps improve airflow underneath the floor. The team moved the fins on the side of the main body in front of the side pod, which helps improve the airflow quality into the radiator duct and gives better cooling performance. It also has a bigger floor edge wing slot, move forward, and increase the curve of the forward position. Both of these are used to move the floor load forward. Why are we mentioning these now? Because since this point, Mercedes was able to find more speed in their car and had something to build on for future races. Silverstone ended with Hamilton getting the last spot on the podium, while Russell unfortunately got caught in the big crash on lap 1 after Silverstone. We had Austria, where Mercedes was looking strong. In the second qualifying session, they set the fastest times, but they crashed in the third qualifying session and messed up their starting position in the sprint race. Still, Hamilton managed to get on the podium with Sainz quitting in the final part of the race. These are very important moments for Mercedes because even though they didn't find an overnight solution to their troubling W13 car, the team was finally able to fight one of the teams ahead. This was also seen in France. A race where Hamilton was much faster than Perez and Russell managed to pass him in a tricky way to get third place. Mercedes brought a new version of their nose in France with a different shape compared to the previous flatter version. The new nose also looks more refined in how it gets smaller as it connects with the rest of the structure. One of the most important things that Mercedes needed to improve on was their straight-line speed, an area where Red Bull has completely destroyed their competition. With this new design of the nose, Mercedes reduced the drag and therefore got more speed on the straights, which was seen by Hamilton getting away from Perez by a lot. But we have to stay realistic and say that Perez was running with different car settings than Max, which is why Hamilton was able to get away from the Mexican driver but was nowhere near the Dutchman. This shows that the team still needed more work to be done. So for the Hungarian Grand Prix, they brought yet another set of upgrades. And this one showed that the team has unlocked much more speed compared to the previous races. George Russell got his first career pole position without a single fastest sector time, and the two drivers shared the podium for the second time in a row. What's even more encouraging for the team is that they managed to fight Ferrari without the team having trouble with their cars. But Ferrari drivers were struggling because they had problems with their race tactics again. So it was easier for Mercedes to pass them because of the hard tires put on the Ferraris during the second pit stop. But what made Mercedes so strong at this race? Before it, few people believed they could get pole position here. Hungary's track is known as Monaco without walls, and with how bumpy the track is, it was expected for them to struggle. The team managed to use a front wing with more downforce, as they had previously trimmed the upper parts when needed to help reduce the downforce and drag. This helps balance the car better as the team went back to the higher downforce rear wing setup, with them changing some of the settings to get the best from it. Mercedes also made changes to the beam wing setup with the curve of the parts increased, as a way of giving additional downforce and the needed balance for the other changes that were made. The little wings that are shaped like a boomerang now sit on top of the W13's halo, which is something that Mercedes has loved to do in the past since the halo arrived in 2018. When asked about his late race speed in Hungary, Hamilton was kind of surprised and said, "I honestly don't know. I was definitely struggling at the beginning of the race and wasn't sure I'd be able to catch the guys up, but bit by bit I got a bit more comfortable with the balance. I had a really good start." As well, this was after Hamilton had jumped ahead of the two Alpine cars at the start of the race. I really want to thank my team who have continued to push and never give up through this tough year that we've had so far. For us to have both cars on the podium twice is pretty special. It was really unlucky for George today. The other guys still have a bit of an edge, but we're clearly closing the gap. And this was just an amazing way to go into the summer break knowing that we have this performance. Hopefully we'll bring more into the start of the second season and start fighting with the guys in front. Finished Hamilton. With all of these new upgrades and changing some of the old ones, Mercedes is back in business again. The team is currently sitting just 30 points behind Ferrari in the team championship, and both of their drivers aren't that far away in the drivers' championship either. George Russell is currently ahead of Sainz with 158 points, 2 more than the Spanish driver, and 12 more than his teammate Hamilton. The younger British driver has gotten on the podium 5 times, while the 7-time world champion managed to do this 6 times in the season. An even more encouraging fact for the Silver Arrows is that second place is not actually that far away in the Drivers' Championship, considering the fact that Perez is struggling a lot with the new upgrades and Charles Leclerc is having the season that he's currently having. The Monaco driver enters the summer break with 178 points, 5 more than Perez from Red Bull and just 20 more than Russell. Want to know more about why Ricciardo is struggling with his McLaren? Click the video link that's on your screen.